This is the second algebra unit. We're covering inequalities. This is the fourth video, so this is part 4. In part 3, we had just finished talking about how to translate inequality notation into interval notation with the brackets and the parentheses. So the next portion of the worksheet that we've been following in all of these videos is identifying solutions. So please take a moment and go through these and pause the video while you do, and then come back and we will cover the answers. Here are the answers to the first 6. Number 1 is B, 2 is B, 3 is A, 4 is also A, even though next to the 16 it kind of looks like a bracket that it really is a parenthesis, so it is A. 5 is C, and 6 is B. Okay? And here are the last 4, A, C, A, and B. Okay? Okay, now we're going to translate some phrases into inequalities. Okay, so the quotient of x and 3 is less than or equal to 5. Quotient is a word that means division. Is, that will usually mean equal to unless it is followed by an inequality such as less than or equal to. So this one with the quotient of x and 3, so we can use a fraction bar for our division sign. So x divided by 3 is less than or equal to 5. The difference is subtraction. The difference between x and 4, so subtract x minus 4, is greater than 10. Product means multiplication. So we're going to multiply x times 7, which we would write 7x because you normally write the number coefficient first, is not greater than 21. So if it's not greater, then it's either less than or equal to. So not greater, that's called a complement, something we'll talk about more in chapter 4. So it's kind of like the opposite of greater, not greater. The negation of that, not greater, would be less than or equal to. Reduced by is another way of saying subtraction. So x reduced by 13 is at least 15. So think back, what does at least mean? At least 15 means 15 or more, so greater than or equal to. And then here's another x take away. Take away means subtract. So x take away 5 is less than 8. Okay. Moving on to the next 5. Okay, let's look at the next 5. We have x multiplied by 11, so you could say x times 11, except again, we like to have the number come first. The coefficient comes first. So 11x is less than or equal to 22. Ratio. Ratio is another way of doing division. It's to write a fraction. The ratio of x and 4 is not less than 9. So if it's not less than, then that means it must be either greater than or equal to. Okay, 13 more than. Now, more than, you're going to think, oh, that's the greater than sign. However, it needs to have the word is with it. If you want more than to be greater than, the greater than symbol, it needs to say is more than. This is just 13 more than. So if it's without the is, we're just going to say 13 plus x is greater than and 14. That's when we do our sign, is when they have it's preceded by the is. Okay? This one is interesting the way it's worded, 2 subtracted from x. So we think, oh, look, it's 2 minus x. No, it's not. It's 2 subtracted from x. We're subtracting the 2 from the x. And it is at most 3. So if you remember, at most is 3 is the most it can be, so it's less than or equal to 3. And last, a total of 6 and x. What do you think total is? Total is addition in this case. The total of 6 and x is less than 20. Okay, in this last little portion here, we're going to get a head start on Chapter 4 by talking about something called complements. So when we think about a complement, I want you to think about the word not. Okay, so when we want to know the complement of fewer than 3, what we mean by that is not fewer than 3. So if it's not fewer than 3, what would it be? If it's not fewer, it's more than or equal to 3. If it is not more than 2, then it is less than or equal to 2. Okay, let's skip none for the moment and let's do at least 10, the complement of that. So not at least 10. So let's think, what does at least 10 mean again? At least 10 is greater than or equal to 10. So if it's not greater than or equal to 10, then it is less than 10. If it's not at most 15, so let's recall, what did that mean? At most 15 was less than or equal to 15. So if it's not less than or equal to 15, then it is greater than 15. Notice that the complement always has only one of them has the equality sign. So if at least 10 is greater than or equal to, then the complement is not going to have that equal to sign in it. Okay, 10 or more. So 10 or more is 10 or more, so greater than or equal to 10. So the complement is less than 10. So we're not going to talk about the complement rule yet. That's going to come in chapter 4, so we're going to wait on that. And because we haven't really covered probability yet, we're not going to do the end of this worksheet here. This is something that we will come back to. Whether we come back to it on this worksheet or not, we will cover this when we get into Chapter 4, and definitely when we get into Chapter 5. So we have one last thing to cover, and it's called set notation. It is in the homework, so I wanted to make sure that we covered it. So we have covered so far inequality notation and interval notation. So now we're going to introduce to you set notation. It's just another way to write the same kind of thing. So let's talk about, what if we had x is greater than 5. So if we remember from interval notation, you kind of think about the graph. This is all the numbers greater than 5. So the smallest number is 5. It doesn't include 5, so we use parentheses. The biggest number, it keeps going until infinity. And you can't equal infinity, so we use a parentheses for that also. Now, set notation is almost identical to your inequality notation. Here is the difference. Okay, 1, it is surrounded by braces. They're like brackets, but they're little squiggles. When you do this in the homework, when you click on the little box to put it in set notation that you're going to put the answer in, a little math menu will pop up, and braces are one of the options. So just go ahead and press that whenever you know you're going to put something in set notation. Now, notice I've left a space in front of my inequality notation, and this is all you have to write in front you write an X and a bar. So this bar here has the meaning such that. So X is such that X is greater than 5. X is all the numbers greater than 5. Okay, so let's try another one. Let's try X is less than or equal to negative 2. So negative 2 is the highest number. The lowest number is negative infinity. You can't equal negative infinity. We do equal negative 2. But with set notation, start with our braces, X bar, and then just put in what we had for the inequality notation. So it's really not that different. Again, it's just adding an X, a vertical bar, and then the braces around it. Let's do one where it has X in the middle. Okay, so 7's the smallest number, 8's the largest. We can equal 7. We can't equal 8. So brace on the 7, parentheses on the 8. For our set notation, we do our braces, X, vertical bar, and then just write what we wrote for our inequality notation. That's really the only difference. Okay? If you have questions, as always, email me, let me know, and I will do my best to answer them. All right, that's all for the second algebra unit.